Hold on, my headphones are not on. Hello?
Hello.
Hello. Alright, real quick. Show you how the code works. Though I'll have to do text readability, I guess. Better text readability. Hopefully you can read this. Hi, so if you're trying to make it so that you can figure like is it the object itself you want to know?
Yeah, I want the object to be able to tell if it's being held by the player by referencing ideally a variable on itself and not on the player.
Yeah, so all object controllables have this variable, private object controller, object controller.
Right.
Um,
My first thought was to make that public, but I thought you would not be a fan
yeah,
of
you're
that, so.
definitely not supposed to, yeah, because then it would be hard to figure out what's changing it if you're trying to make that public. Just access it yourself. So like if the object that that's going to be accessing this is going to be a object controller, right? It's going to be its own it's going to be a an object controllable, right? So like what are you trying what I would do are you willing to say what you're trying to do, or is it
Yeah,
just misconception?
I'm just so I the breaking block I was trying to do is a puzzle where, you know, like a variation on the staircase thing, except now the pieces you're working with can only be jumped on once. So instead of a regular box, it's a breakable box. But obviously, when I grab it, I don't remember if grabbing stuff always worked this way, but you know, like I can put this through the floor and that registers as a hit, like
Yeah, I
as
mean,
someone jumping on it.
it's not going to work that way. I think I put that in the sheets in the document that basically I'm going to make it more portal-like, physicsy basically like a constant pull to a point,
Was
so
it
that
originally
like
like that? I feel like it was originally like that, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't remember honestly. Um, but anyway, so that's how I'm gonna make it work. And then for
Either way, though,
um,
even under that paradigm, like this could still happen, right? Like, cause it's just a
yeah,
collider at the
because
top.
it's all that's happening is it's just hitting the floor, right? So
So
that's all
basically,
that's gonna
I just want to
happen.
say, if I'm being held, don't do that. Like, don't register anything on top of yourself.
Gotcha.
Um,
So then I would for this whatever script you're writing, just make it a child of or a subclass of object controllable. So like the player controllable is a subclass, right, of object
so
controllable.
make
So
object breakable a subclass of, or break platform a subclass of object controllable.
yeah, if that makes sense. Like, so are you going to be like is break platform just like it's break platform, right? So it's not object breakable. It's like a break platform. It's not like a super type. It's just a these are platforms that can break, and there probably won't be like are there going to be other things that that you want to break that you don't want to be able to be controlled, like
Yes.
picked up?
Originally, I envisioned this as something that wasn't controllable. So the original concept of this was something like a glass floor, right, or something like
Hmm.
that, that where you step on it once, and then when you step off it, it breaks. But that wasn't controllable at all, and I do still want to have
All right.
those
So
things too.
if there are that and they're going to use the same script, then at that point the better option is to not make it an object controllable, obviously, because we don't want it to be able to be picked up. And at that point, if that's shared functionality going to be outside of that, then yes, then what you do, you make this public, but do this, what I did down here. So you make this public to make it a public get, so you can read it, read only basically, but you can't set it. Um, so it's get
So
private.
just copy what you're doing with the two variables below that. I thought about doing that, but I didn't
Yeah,
know if
exactly.
that would do. Okay, yeah, all right,
Like keeping
that's easy
the
enough.
set private is super important because like the take control script is what you need to do to set that. Because if you bypass that and take control somewhere some way else, like for example, if you had a object that was being held and then something else took control of it without by manually setting this and not running this method, then it would never tell the player grab hold script to release control of it. So the player grab hold script will also be competing with it. But you know, if something takes control of it through this method, then the first thing it does is if it's forced or whatever, it will release control over whatever's holding it. So that's why that's an example of why you don't want everything to be public, why you want to have like a private setter so that you can only set it through this method internally, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fine.
And we can, as we go more and more, or as you program and stuff, and like we can have short sessions if you want to sit down and I can show you some of the design patterns, like, and talk about why I use them, and if you want to learn that stuff. I know you don't have a ton of time to, but it is like there are reasons for it. I know it can seem frustrated when I change stuff all around, but like we literally can't do this object control scheme without it. Yeah, because it just gets too
So hold
messy.
on, it's giving me, or does it just not like this?
Here, if you want to stream, I can look at it, or are you streaming to Twitch?
Yeah, I'll stream. I'm not sure you'll be able to read my shit, but
Let's see here.
oh wait, sorry. So
Right.
this is probably wanting to be public, right? That's why.
I am
Yeah,
looking at.
never mind. I thought it was complaining about this being.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's a little special thing. So you put it's like a. I don't know what the word for it is, but yeah, it's in brackets, so it's in brackets, so you don't that thing the definition itself is no longer a statement at that point, so it doesn't get a thing at the end. It goes inside of the brackets. But yeah, that looks right. But yeah, and you want the object controllable, not object controller, right? Because you want the block. The controller would be the hand. You want to know if the object controllable is being controlled.
Alright.
And then, yeah, you know the rest if you're. I guess you're just doing. Yeah, or you know what you're doing. I guess you just want to. Yeah, grab the object controllable. You just have the wrong type in the box collider. Where it says box collider in the middle.
Sorry, where?
The line you just added is a box collider. You want to change
Oh
that
yeah.
to object controllable. There you go. And then yeah, after that you just should be able to get the thing, and I'll also have to check the typing of it.
Let me think about this actually, because what is this actually saying? If
Probably the first thing you want to do is debug log, because I don't remember what it's going to say when it's being controlled. Who its controller will. I think its controller will be. Okay, it's actually object controller, but when you print it, I just don't know what objects it's going to give you, or what type of object it's going to give you. If it's going to give you like the class, or if it's going to give you the object.
doesn't
name.
really matter, right? As long as it's not null, it should be null if.
Yeah, I guess so. Because like if it's being repelled, I guess you want the same logic, right?
Yeah, I'll just make this public for a second so we can see. But I think it.
If it's being repelled, I guess you would want the same object anyway, right? Or you want the same behavior, like if it's in a rune.
If it's in a rune.
Like if it was being repelled
Yeah.
and before the repel releases it, you still wouldn't want it to break until the repel released it.
Actually, maybe a better way to do this. Actually, I was gonna say maybe the best way to do this is just to see if it's sitting still, because I do still want it to break if it's under the attract. Maybe a
Yeah.
better way to do this is just to say if I've sat still perfectly still for a certain amount of time.
You could also do, like if you did want to still go this route, you could do object controllers is like of type, uh, player hold drop or whatever. Because I think because object controller is a super type, and player hold drop is a subtype of object controller. Um, so if object controllable dot object controller is of type is, I think you can even literally just say is type, or is rather object or player hold drop, then you'll know that it is the player grab.
Oh, wait. No, wait, actually, sorry, that's not what I want. I need to reference a variable on this. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, you need the, well, yeah, you'll need to, it'll be object controller dot object controllable, or sorry, object controllable OC dot object controller.
Actually, this is what I want to be public. Yeah, I didn't think about. I do want to go this route, and but I didn't really think about. Yeah, it being in a repel rune or anything other than. Maybe I just do a combination of both. Just say if I'm not being held and I've stayed still for a certain amount of time.
Um, yeah, I guess so. But like, what if you shoot it out of a repel and something hits it, but it's still moving? Wouldn't you still want it to break?
If it shoots out
Or
of a repel and it hits something.
Or like, what if it was on a floating or a moving platform and you touched it?
Was on a moving platform and you jumped on top of it. Being on top of what I picture it as really is like a glass block, like a Minecraft glass block, right?
Like a weight thing over time. At that point, it could just be if you just want it to be like weight over time.
I don't want it to be time in general. I want it to be like you can jump on this and stand. I want it to work exactly like in Void Stranger. Actually, was where I got the
I don't
idea.
know
I
what
was like,
that
wow,
is.
this is
Or
such
I
a
know what it is,
simple.
but I don't know what the mechanic is.
It's
Just
like
explain it to me in terms of like, like, do you want to feel like it's the weight that's breaking it or a time?
I want to feel like you jump on it and then once you jump off it breaks a couple seconds after. It's not really an analog for a real world weight. That's just sort of the flimsy most relative thing, but it's a
You want anything else but the player to be able to trigger it?
I
Because at
want,
that point, you could just check for the
yeah,
player
yes, I
collision.
do. I was thinking
Okay.
about that before, actually, like, oh, is the way around this just to duplicate anything and sit it on the thing while you jump away, because then something's still on it? Because right now the way it works is, it, once anything goes on top of it, it's broken, and then once nothing is on top of it, it breaks after a few seconds. But theoretically, I think the way it works now, I could just put another thing on top of it with me and then jump off and it would stay forever. But
Yeah,
really
so
the
you
way it
could
should work
trick
is
it.
anything touches the top of it and leaves the top of it, it breaks.
Then at that point, at that point, all you need to do is make a hash set, and whenever it's on trigger enter, add that item to a hash set. On trigger exit, remove that item. If that item is in the hash set, then trigger. Or really, at that point, you don't even need to do that. It's just
You don't even
on
need a
trigger
set, right?
exit.
You just need,
Yeah, you
yeah,
don't need anything because
that's the way it works currently. But I do think, like, what question did you ask me originally? If the player, oh, should anything but the player be able to do this? Yes, if I place a thing on this and then knock it off, it should
well,
still break.
well, you could even then do because all things, including the player, is an object controllable. So check for object controllable in the leave script. If when you're leaving, it's an object of subtype, or is of type object controllable, is of super type object controllable, then that'll work.
Sorry, you're saying check to see if the thing holding me
So
is.
when you're leaving, just all you have to do is check if whatever is leaving has a component of type object controllable, because even the player, even though they're a player, they have a component called player controllable. That's a subclass of object controllable. So with the way polymorphism works is it will still recognize the player as object controllable. So all you have to do is when take whatever object leaves the collider, check try get the component and see if it returns null object controllable, and if it's not null, then break.
Doesn't and what am I returning the wrong thing here? It doesn't seem to be. Oh, sorry, it's a boolean. It shouldn't be a boolean. It should be
Well,
it
here,
should be.
comment that up. Comment that stuff out real quick, because I think we could just solve this without any of that. Just
Sorry. What's your method gonna be before?
scroll down to the on trigger exit. For the other, I guess for the game object at this point, since you already have that variable, do if game object dot get component.
In the exit.
Yeah, in the exit. And the component will be object controllable. And put the brackets in there, or the parentheses in there. Then it is not equal to null. Then trigger your break, whatever the hell breaks it.
Actually, this is what makes it break. This is what starts the timer to actually break it. This once anything enters is when it says now this is broken. This is like I should call this cracked or something. But like
Gotcha. So how do you trigger the timer then? Because it looks like the timers must be triggered by something else. If like riders is count as 0 or something. Because it looks like you're counting riders.
um.
It must be if there must be a if statement there for I see it right there. If on line 30, if riders count as 0.
Okay,
So
actually,
in
yeah,
this
right
case,
now it
just
would
make that
work
a
the case where
boolean or
you could leave
something.
something on top of it
Yeah.
indefinitely.
So if that's not how you want it to work, in this case, we just want to make that a boolean that just says, okay, now start the timer, basically. Um, we could also do this with coroutines, which I have become very fond of. But we don't need to. Right now, we're just in the phase of get it to work. We can refine the code later. So for now, easiest thing to do is just to set a boolean to say this thing is broken, or rather, you can start the timer. And put that in that's going to be in that if statement. But yeah, just add it for now.
Also, this needs to be
Just do break timer. Yeah, whatever. For now, that should be false, that boolean, which I think it starts as false, but I don't remember. So just to be safe, yeah. Then put that inside the if statement. And I think the S needs to be capitalized. Replace that. Why isn't it not? Is it like capitalized somewhere else? Oh no, it's recognizing it now, right? Yeah, okay. Yes, okay, good. So if that's true, now go scroll down, we're still missing something. Oh, that's that. Just comment that line out right now, line 29.
This should be this, right?
There you go. All right. So far we don't need. So this is just gonna do that. Yeah. You can keep the other stuff there. It shouldn't affect anything. So now when it leaves, if break time or break timer start will become true, and that should start the break. Now scroll up real quick to your if statement on the break timer. Cracked equals true. That's already going to be set. Break timer. Yeah. Change that end OC is not equal to null because we don't want that right now for this test at least. Okay. So that should just work
I
now.
don't
If
have
cracked.
so I'm gonna need another object in this room to test this.
Well, didn't it happen on the floor before? Wouldn't it happen anywhere?
That's
Theoretically.
a separate thing, right? Or maybe not. That's. Oh, I get what you're saying. This will.
Yeah, that should break it. Okay, which it is breaking it for some reason. So now we just have to check why it's breaking, why that's even
So
breaking it.
before we go down using this route fully, the is everything ever that's gonna be moving in the game gonna be on object controllable? Like,
Anything that can be, I mean, probably, right? Not moving,
I mean,
right? Because
at a
the moving
certain point, I think
platforms.
there's gonna be. I thought that at a certain, the way I had always pictured it, it was anything could have a rigid body that would move, that might want to move and be affected by physics, and at a certain size that wouldn't be grabbable anymore. It would be too big of a thing
But would
to.
it still be repellable? Like,
It would
because we
still be
can add
repellable
that.
and stuff. It would still be affected by runes, but
Then
the
yes,
player
it's still
wouldn't.
going to be object controllable. Because at that point, we'll just put logic in the grab drop stuff that just says if mass is this, then you can't hold it. You know, or if like the collider size is this, then you can't hold it. But yes, at that point, if it's repellable and then or like if it's affectable by runes like the repel rune, then it will always be object controllable.
Okay, so all right, yes, then yes, that should work.
All right, so now we just have to figure out why it triggered, because even then that should not have triggered for this, because game object, because nothing should have triggered. So let's do a debug log in here, in this statement here, just to check. Just write other dot name or something, debug log other dot name, so we can see what's unbreaking it. But we want to do it in the if statement.
Uh,
Line 60, just enter down, or 61, just enter down. Yeah, anywhere in here. Debug log. Other dot name if it's yeah. Because we want to know why that would have been set to true, or what it thought touched that that would have been set to true. All right, so just run. Looks like nothing touched it yet. Now grab it. Okay, so requesting control. Oh, okay, hold on. That debug log generated collider mesh. Hold on, click on that generated collider mesh.
that's the from this, right?
No, I just mean click on the console log. Just make sure that is coming from where we think it is. That's coming from break platform line 62. That line we just added.
Um, yeah.
Line 62. How is that coming up as object controllable? There's no object controllable on that. Game object that get component object controller is not equal to null. Meaning it does have an object controller on it. Why don't you just real quick.
Oh, wait, this is getting from myself, right? I want to get from other.
Oh yeah, sorry, because Dio. Okay, yeah, yes, thank you. Yeah, good catch. Good catch. Right.
Were these all here from last time?
Anytime you, because of the way the worker threads work on the thing, anytime you like reload the game, basically, reload the scripts, it's going to do that. All right, now jump on it.
Actually, it's not good. Yeah, maybe it'll still work.
There you go. Play reverse person and explode.
Right on.
All
Okay.
right, so that's the behavior we expect, and now you can try another object controllable too if you want, like drop an apple or something in there. You could have two of these things touch each other. That would, if you just duplicate that, that should prove it too. If the platforms just hit each other. Yeah, I guess you want a
Key.
positive and a negative, right? All right. I do have to call it soon though.
Yeah, I have to go to bed like now, basically. But thank you.
Yeah. So then
Right on. So
we can keep
anything,
the thing.
is there any reason that I can't go buck wild with this if I need to reference variables, or like, is there
As
any
long as you
downside
are
to?
only, if it, like keep that, you cannot make, don't ever make the public sets. Making a public get is okay, but not always the best design pattern. But I don't really care that much about it. But making a public set is when you have, is that's when like the design patterns I've built can become broken. So like it's never that big of a deal to read something. Um, That's not exactly true, but I don't have anything in here right now where reading something would be an issue. There are times where like you would read something and because you're reading it, I will like you there are patterns that you would do that would process some logic before you read. Basically, like for example, if you didn't want something to update all the time, like it was expensive to update every frame, but you did want it to update when you're checking it, basically, that would be an example of a pattern where making that a public read, it breaks it. But that I would probably define inline, like where in that bracket that you see, uh, where you're writing the public get private set stuff. So in this case, at least for that stuff, feel free to use that object controller thing anytime you want, because that will never change.
I mean, honestly, if as long as I can use that to reference most of most of my having a hard time, figuring out your scripts and stuff is like I have to look at multiple to really understand what's going on. So
Mhm.
like, and 90% of it is like I would like to reference a variable on this thing directly, or I'd like access to this where it's currently private.
Yeah, so everything is
Maybe not
like
90%,
generally
but a decent amount.
generally you try to make things as private as possible. I've slowly been moving everything to private variables. You'll probably have noticed, um, because of of like everything we've already talked about. But in general, if you think that you need to make something public and accessible, but because you need to read it, not because you need to set it, but because you need to read it, then feel free to use the same convention I've done that you just did for that. Because worst case scenario, I'll just go in and change it later. Um, that's not a big
What did
deal.
you fix a few hours ago? I noticed you updated
The
this thing, but I
duplicate
haven't gone
rune.
through it yet.
Yeah, so the duplicate rune, I made it so that there was like a logic breaking bug. Basically, I put the comments in here basically. So I was accidentally turning off the collider when anything was captured, like was taken control of. So then that's why things could like float away forever because the collider was off. So it was never there. It was never triggering on collider exit, right? On trigger exit. So that's why things would float off forever. The gravity problem, I left you three options for how to approach it. I think number three is the best, but I'll leave you with that. I'll let you decide. There's reasons why we can't do some basic stuff. Like you can't make it kinematic because then it becomes the attract rune, right? Like, because if it's kinematic rigid body, then you could jump on it. I can't constantly set the velocity to 0 for the same reason, because then if you jump on it, you'll be able to stand on it.
I mean, we
So
have to turn
then
the gravity off as long as it's being drawn on walls, though, right? Because
no,
you're saying
well,
like make it float like a jetpack or something when it's on a wall, basically.
don't turn off gravity. Just do the thing that I'm gonna do with the player hold drop, like the grab point. Just constantly pull it to that point. That way, I never turn off gravity, so it'll just get pushed out.
As long as when something else touches it, that stops. I think that should be fine.
Well, so that's another reason to do this, right? So that I think I put that in somewhere. Like no, the problem with number one, move object to its own layer that only the player grab raycast can interact with, but then other objects can't knock something out of the rune's control, which is I don't like that. So that was
Yeah.
yeah.
Otherwise, it really does nullify the track. So yeah, it has to. But is there
Well,
a
like,
reason we can't
yeah.
use this? But then just if anything touches it, or you know,
Well, number three is what I'm saying, but like I don't want it to, I don't want it to be like if anything touches it. I just want it to be something as simple as when it leaves the collider, which is pretty small. So like that should be fine.
as long as it
If
doesn't have a thing where like something could just graze it and it like you know like it's like clearly like clipping through it and going back to this one point, then that's fine.
Yeah.
As long as the collider's small enough that is not not looking like the thing's just like you know like clipping through another object to get back to this point that it's been being pushed towards. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to figure it. I'm sure it'll take some playing around with, but point being is you can't just make it. You can't just stick it to it. You can't just make it not collide with anything but the player raycast because then if we do anything but the player raycast, you know, you wouldn't be able to stand on it. But then the things like other objects can't knock it out, which might be fine if that's what we care about. Like in my mind at that point, then it becomes like an ethereal object, like a cloud object, and then like if a ball rolls through it, then the ball passes through it, and the only way you can get something out of it is by grabbing it. Maybe that's okay, but I think number three is still the better option to try for now. The other thing I fixed was what did I fix? I forget.
I had something about the how the classifier still classifies even if you're drawing even if not the drawing's not really there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's just a classifier breaking, not the what was it? Not that it's like getting invisible points. So we can check that real quickly. If you go to your image out folder, well, draw on your anti-magic surface, and then we'll see where it goes.
I'm pretty sure it must be still getting the full image because I can't imagine it would be classifying with just the parts that I saw.
If it is, then the problem is something like there's a collider somewhere else, or like or something. Because I tested it again.
It's almost like it still is hitting the thing underneath, but it's
Well,
not drawing the points or something. But
pull up your thing.
What was it?
Whatever you were testing it on. And you got this. This looks kind of cool. I like the broken glass kind of look.
This is how I generally picture the non-drawable surface, some sort of like stained glassy looking. But yeah, so like I would do something like something like.
Okay, that is still well. Actually, I'm not sure. Let's see. Yeah, so that is still working. You see how it's drawing under it, so it's not actually. That is not. Click on the surface there. Is that an anti-magic surface? Because I'm not sure.
Yeah, these are anti-magic. I believe they should all be. Sorry,
that's layer anti-magic. That's layer anti-magic. That is layer anti-magic. Maybe they're just too low. Maybe their colliders are lower than you think. Or maybe they don't have colliders. Try pulling them way up. Like out of the ground up. Yeah. That's probably good enough. Try that. Now draw on...
Wait, why are they...
Or are you just messing with their
Oh,
colliders?
Okay, so it's pulling the collider up, but not the actual thing. So hold on. I'm gonna pull the whole thing up.
Maybe there's another set of colliders on it, too.
This might actually classify because there's enough of it showing, but we'll see.
But like,
let's try another.
Something's weird here. Can you get a block and drop it on there? Okay, no, that is stopping you. It's not like triggering the... like the raycast here, clearly the raycast is going through in this case, and I don't know what. Oh, you know what? Check your if you pulled in the character controller and you didn't take the prefab, or if this is one of your player, yeah, like
This is from your.
unplug it.
This room was copied from your
Close them.
room.
Click on the player animated real quick. And open it up and go to the player. Actually, it's gonna be on the drawing. I'm sorry. Go on drawing, draw controller. Yeah, let's see that layer mask. There somehow this didn't get caught up in yours. Click on the layer mask there and draw controller. It's a drop down menu.
Layer mask and draw controller. Yeah. Okay.
So it's not hitting. It's not even hitting anti magic. Add anti magic to that. This is every layer the draw controller hits. Somehow this did not get updated for whatever reason.
Alright, hold on. This is running, so I'm gonna have to
do it again. Maybe it might have been
so
that I didn't
it needs
actually...
to be clicked as hitting.
You know what it probably
layer?
is? I bet you I didn't overwrite this, so that's probably why. I probably didn't overwrite the prefab when I finished this. So it just needs to be, yeah, because the draw controller needs to know that it's hitting the anti-magic layer, right? It can't just go through it. So this should work. Yeah, and see how
Okay,
yeah,
I see what you mean. Yeah, it's yeah, gotcha. Okay, right on.
So before it was going through it, it was just I probably didn't save down the new prefab.
Put that back.
So yeah, that should work. So we'll just call that completed, and that's good. That it's not that the classifier isn't that dumb. I was a little worried about having to go through and make more of those. Also, at some point, I might move. How would you guys feel about actually moving this over to Jira? Do you like the Google Doc, or would it be easier? Like technically, this stuff is literally how you would define issues in Jira.
I don't care. This works fine for me. But
yeah.
like
I might go to Jira because then I could show it off for like a job interview.
Yeah.
And also it is Jira's literally
also,
designed.
how are you sorting these? Is there a sort button?
Yeah, it just if you go to the top left, so like I notice I put a number by the priority.
Okay,
so
here we go. Yeah, sort table.
If you go to the top left, then just sort it down to ascending or descending, and that'll do it.
Right on. Let me just
yeah, I'll probably switch this to Jira though, just to make it easier. Yeah, I also noted that like so you wanted the alternate control scheme that we had talked about for the rotation stuff.
Yeah, it's not super high priority. I think I put that as low or medium.
I'm actually putting a higher priority fix that will fix that, which is I'm just gonna make a menu button or menus, like a true menu, where players can modify like their the mouse sensitivity. They'll be able to edit that in there, but also I'll make a key binding section so that we can test out different key bindings.
Can you make it save to like
yeah, try to like an XML or something?
Yeah, save to a profile so that we can each even if we go into a new room, we don't have to individually set it for that player controller for that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, get that in. That's why I moved over to the new input system to begin with, so people can rebind their controls. I'll also add the toggle. That'll be a good option. I'll actually add that in. Add toggle to draw instead of hold. Right, so add that in. And that'll solve all of those problems.
Right on. Alright, thank you. I have to go to bed, but that was a lot. That was. I'm learning this thing. Definitely worth it. I'll let you know if I use it anywhere else.
Yeah, it should be fine. I don't do right now. I definitely don't do anything where I change something when you're reading it. That is a thing that happens. That can happen in certain design patterns, but we don't need it right now. So like for now, feel free to use it as much as you want. Just switch it over to the big thing is when you're setting something that can be when things become problems. But like the public get is not as big of a deal. You know, like, oh, you know what would be one good example of that actually, which I probably should do and I haven't done yet, is the get average. I have it as its own method right now. It's get average normal for the drawing, right? Drawing dot get average normal.
Yes, I'm sorry. What is the not streaming anymore. What is this in my history? I don't feel like I did this.
Dream it again. I can't. I can't see what you're.
What is this? Is this me?
Transfer. Like, that's us probably pulling our stuff into like I
Is it
pulled your stuff, you pulled my stuff. So like if there are some changes that where we messed with the same thing, then that's that.
okay? I feel like that's the first time
Eh,
I'm seeing that, but
No, that happens all the time if you are working on the same object that someone else is working
I guess
on.
we haven't been on the same branch for a
Yeah.
while. But okay.
So yeah, that happens. That happens constantly. So, for example, the like an example of that would be, or the thing I was talking about, where you wouldn't want to have mess with the get method, would be uh, like right now, like if you made the average normal variable in drawing public, then that would break the way public average normal work or get average normal works, right? I will stream this real quick. It'll be really fast. This is the last thing because I really do need to. I told Sammy I'd only be like 5 minutes, and it was just way longer. But hold on. All right, so let's go to the drawing. Drawing, right? So here there's a variable somewhere called average normal. Somewhere, average. Oops. Yeah, average normal, right? It's private specifically because there's a method here called get average normal somewhere, um, which I probably should put at the top, that normalizes that. Basically, average normal is not actually a normalized variable. It is a sum of all the normals for every point. So you have to normalize it when you're done. But I didn't want to have to worry about like telling this thing when it's done and finalizing it and that sort of thing. It was just a lazy way of implementing it, really. But um, so like if you made average normal public, then no one would use this, and they'd get a non-normalized vector, right? Because the first thing they're just gonna do is hit the dot and find, oh look, average normal. I can just grab it there, um, that sort of thing. I actually might just change this to be normal, the word normal. But anyway, instead, what I probably should do. So that's one reason why you wouldn't want to change like a public getter, or make a private something that's private a
Sorry, are
public.
you saying don't do the thing that you just showed me how to do, or don't, or that's a reason that we would use that instead of a regular, just setting it to public?
This is a reason of why you wouldn't want to do that. So like I guess it's a if you wanted to like check for why why I might have left something private, then maybe like a quick sanity check is just to search for this
So,
and see if I have like a custom return for that like alters what the return
right,
would be.
if it's a part of a
Yeah.
function that is not running every step in the update, probably is a good,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Like the example here is like just use this paradigm, right? So this is average normal, right? And I specifically don't let you have access to that variable on its own because I want you to take the normalized version of it. I don't want to give you the actual value, which is actually just a sum of a huge giant vector. Um, so that's why. Actually, though, that being said, I should change this to like the real way to do this is to do something um, like this. Uh, get equals or get something like this. Yeah, there it is. Return average normal. The syntax I have is wrong. I'd have to look it up, but it's basically like this, and then I'd do like you know dot normalized. Yeah, there we go. That's how I
and
really
that
should
makes
do
it
it.
so that no matter when you get it, it would be normalized.
Yeah, that way, and no matter when you get it, it's oops. Where did I just go? Yeah, it'll be normalized. So now it's like that is get.
So when you put get and set in here,
I don't
the
know.
purpose of it is such is to say like for the get average normal normalized, that's just to say whenever anything accesses this, return it in this as this kind of to do this to it first before you give it to them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
can you
basically.
do anything after the dot? Or anything that's like a pre-built-in function in Unity, or could you do your own thing there too?
Yeah, you can do your own things. I'm not as familiar. I'm trying to figure out the syntax. I've only done this a couple times. I'm not as familiar with this, but yeah, you can like this is a great way to do a one-line method. You can do this. So like if it's a one-line method, instead of doing like giant brackets which take up a lot of room and space, just put it in the getter or setter and run it in here. Like a good example for that is in the input utilities here. I have player input wrapper somewhere in here. Let's just call it input. There it is. Right, so here I have a bunch of stuff that is literally just, there's no functions here. This just says when you're trying to get the value scroll click or restart or confirm or interact or mark classified or jump is the easiest one probably to think of. When you're trying to get the jump value, instead of running some method down here, just run this method right here. And actually, instead of this, I could probably simplify it literally to this, which looks a little cleaner to me. Can I? Oh, because that's a return. Something like that. There. So I could probably do that instead, right? And that's a little shorter. I don't have a return. I don't have that. I don't have that. And it's a nice, easy thing. And I don't remember how I tell it to, how I do this with set.
Is it
And
not just the
because,
same exact syntax as the get?
well, it's a little different because I want the set to be private. Set average normal equals, and then do I need to say val here? I need some way of telling it that there's a value coming in. I don't remember what it is. You know what? No, don't want that. Generate read only, generate property, generate parameter, change val to value. Okay, I guess it just reads the word value. It just needs to be the word value. That theoretically should work.
And,
Yeah, so yeah, you can do stuff like that. But so this is actually a better way to do what I'm doing. So now you could probably get the normal, and it'll always run this function. So you'll always get the normalized version of the normal that I want you to get. Yeah. Anyway, I'll test that out later to make sure I didn't break
I
anything.
will. I mean, anytime I do that, I would tell you anyway. So.
Yeah,
But,
and there shouldn't be too many cases where most things are private for a reason. Like, so, but they're like, so I don't expect you to need to access that very frequently. But if you do need to make something public, honestly, making it public should be fine for now. So.
right on. Let me see. I could draw a tiny enough repel myself up here.
You might just be able to do it by just putting a dot in there and not doing a circle. Yeah.
I think I'm too big for it though.
Yeah, I like to take that thing out. So, we still need to make the runes feel good and change that stuff.
I still like you know, I would still like. I do think. Are we still thinking about doing the size of it as its power thing?
That's how that's literally how it works right now. It's just not super noticeable. I think you're right that I did see that you said let's use what is it, the curves for that too, which I think is a good idea. So we can use the curve just at like a max. We could have a max power, a min power, and just have it. Then we can define our own custom curve for how power scales based on size, which is nice. You know, would be nice.
Yeah, because like I don't want to cover this whole, like I want to be able to do this effect, and I do want people to be able to draw in these little holes if they can, but I want them, and if they draw this, I want them to be like, okay, this works, but it doesn't shoot me up
It's
high
not
enough
big enough. Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
so.
All right. Yeah. Anyway, all right. That's should be good. If you have anything else that you want urgently done, just put it on that list. But I'll probably move this list to Jira in the future just to make it easier to, or just to give myself some Jira demonstration stuff. And yeah, I'll probably be working on the classifier and the menu stuff tomorrow.
Yeah, I was saying in the group chat, I don't think we'll have a showable thing by this Thursday unless you're really gonna crank out, work on like
Pieces, puzzle
nothing
pieces
but
and
that
stuff.
for until Thursday. But I would say let's just wait till January and show something a little bit more polished.
Yeah, we could probably just try to test out the character controller, see how people think it feels. But yeah, I will. Yeah, we could, depending on how we feel, where we're at, we could. It might be better, like yeah, like you said, to have just a good set of like 10, 15 puzzles for people to just play the puzzle game,
Yeah,
and that might come off as super impressive to people. So
I even think, you know, if we don't have anything brand new to show, maybe we just go and don't do show and tell this time and just we'll look at other people's stuff and just be
yeah, I mean, I
there.
still might want to have people playtest our just the drawing stuff, but
Yeah,
yeah,
we can. Yeah, that's true. That should be fine.
yeah.
All right, I'll catch you later.
Later.